I'm Zibbyowens, and this is Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. As a mom of 4 kids in New York City and a writer myself, I know all too well how short everyone is on time, so I'm here to help. I'm going to interview authors and writers of all types about their work, especially as it relates to parenting and family issues. Hopefully you can listen while doing 8 million other things and fall in love with these talented scribes and their fantastic books, essays, and songs like I have, plus get some tips on surviving parenthood. For more about me, you can check out my essays at zibbyowens.com.
Today's episode has been sponsored by Once Upon a Farm. We know you'd love to feed your little one fresh food you make at home, but when there isn't time for shopping, chopping, and blending, we've got you covered with organic, cold-pressed blends as close to homemade as it gets. OnceUponAFarmOrganics.com. I'm super excited today to be welcoming Jill Santopolo on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. National and international best-selling author Jill Santopolo got her start writing at the age of 3 with a picture book about Stacy the cat. Since then, she has become a writer, editor, teacher, and consummate storyteller. Jill majored in English at Columbia, received an MFA at Vermont College, and even attended NYU to learn about intellectual property rights. She currently edits for the Young Readers Division at Philomel Books, an imprint of Penguin Young Readers Group. She's also an educator and has been a thesis advisor at the New School and taught at Columbia and McDaniel Colleges. Jill is the author of the Alec Flint Sparkle Spa and Follow Your Heart book series, in addition to being the author of The Light We Lost, the amazing bestseller that has been translated into more than 30 languages, which we're going to talk mostly about today.
Hello.
Hi, Jill. Hi, Jill. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for being on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. This is such an honor that you've come on this show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I know you're an amazingly accomplished editor, but I'd like to start today by talking about The Light We Lost, basically because I'm obsessed with the book. As you know, I direct messaged you on Instagram after finishing it, and I was like sitting on my bed sobbing and clutching my chest, and you were nice enough to respond to me. In fact, the book moved me so much this morning, I was telling my husband the plot when he asked me who I was interviewing today, and I started crying again, and he was like, wait,
oh, no.
He's like, this was the fun beach read you recommended to Mike DeFlorio last night? So anyway.
I feel like I need to send you packets of tissues.
I know.
To keep around when you talk about the book.
I'm kind of a weeper. I'm like, I cry at commercials. But anyway, point is, I recommended it to basically everyone as like the read of the summer. So I'm super excited to be talking to you about it. So for listeners who don't know what The Light We Lost is about, could you give them a quick summary, please?
Sure. I'll give a super quick one, which is it's the story of Lucy and Gabe and the way that the two of them meet and connect deeply, and then what happens over the next 13 years as they come in and out of each other's lives. And there are secrets, and there are betrayals, and there are some sexy scenes. And it's basically a story of love and loss and personal connection.
Your depiction of being heartbroken in this book is just so spot on. In the little discussion questions in the back of the paperback, you had answered one of the questions that your own heartbreak was actually the impetus for this story. So I was just wondering if I could totally pry into your personal life and find out, could you tell me more about what happened to you that sparked this beautiful page turner? Maybe something you haven't shared before.
Sure. Yeah, I hadn't realized when I wrote the story, or when I wrote that about this story, that I would get asked about my love life a lot.
Sorry.
I'm used to it now. No, it's great. I'm totally used to it and comfortable with it. Because you know what? I feel like part of writing a story like this is connecting with people about love and loss and life, and I'm happy to share. So basically, I had been in a relationship for about 3 years, and it was the relationship that I thought was going to be the one I was in for the rest of my life, and I had sort of imagined our future together, and I was all in, and then the relationship just kind of exploded for a number of reasons, and even though I probably should have seen it coming, I didn't, and I was just shattered. I mean, I had never been this much of a mess in my life, and have not since. And since I'm a writer, the way I kind of process anything is by writing. So I started writing this sort of series of vignettes about this woman, Lucy, who was also going through a breakup, and her story isn't my story, and she's not me, but I sort of had in her created a kind of friend to go through a breakup with, and also a way to kind of explore what I was feeling at that time. So people ask me a lot if my book is autobiographical, and plot by plot point, no, it's not autobiographical, but I do like to say it's emotionally autobiographical, because a lot of the things that Lucy feels in this book are things that I felt at various points in my life, and wrote about them here.
And do you feel like the writing helped you? Did it help you through that time?
I do. I absolutely do. I feel like it gave me perspective. It gave me a way to kind of understand what I was feeling and what I was going through. And it also took about 4 years to write, so I think, time helped as well. But by the time that the book was done, I think I was in a much, much, much better place than I was when I started writing it.
So how long from the time of your explosive breakup to right now has gone by?
6.5 years.
Okay, so you've got some perspective at this point.
Yeah.
That's good. So if someone reading this book has a relationship in their past that this book reminds them of, that's as intense and sort of this once-in-a-lifetime type of love like Lucy and Gabe's, what would you tell? Would you tell them to go back and chase after it after writing the story? Or do you feel like Lucy kind of made a wise choice in the decisions that she made?
Oh, man. I think Lucy made the only choice that she as a character could have made. And I think that that's kind of how it is with everyone. Like, there are different things that are important to all of us. And I think that for Lucy in this book, her career was also important to her. And a lot of the decisions that she made so that she could further that piece of who she was.
Yep.
So, I think so much about life, and it's one of the things that I kind of was realizing when I was writing this, is about making choices based on what's important. And I feel like there are some times in your life when it's important to follow this love, because I feel it in my bones that this is something I need to do. And other times you feel like that's actually not what's important right now. This person was important to me for a really long time and shaped who I am in various ways, but that was then, and other things are important to me now.
It's also easier to look back, right, and say, oh, I should have done this at that time. But at the time, you have the choices in front of you, and you don't have, like, every choice in the world. Like, this is what's going on, so.
Yeah, well, and I think that, we make the decisions we do at the time because they're very much in that moment. I mean, even things like where you're going to go to college, if you're going to go to college, what job you're going to take, you make those decisions at a particular moment in time because of, who you are leading up to that moment. And I feel like the decisions Lucy made, she made because of who she was leading up to those moments.
In the book, you talk about hearth fire relationships versus wildfire relationships. And can you explain the difference for listeners?
Yeah. So wildfire relationship in the book is a relationship that kind of it makes you crazy. It takes over your life. It becomes the thing in your life that kind of scorches everything else in its path because that's the only thing that exists. And then hearthfire relationships are kind of the ones that are stable and solid and there, but maybe not quite as explosive or crazy making.
So if you had to pick just one of those to have in life, which would you pick?
Can I pick the third one that they talk about?
Yes. I know, the combination. I know. I'm like very black and white. I'm sorry.
There's the bonfire, which I think I think for me is the ideal, where it feels like it's exciting and could kind of get bigger and is powerful, but also is safe.
Yep.
That there's the excitement there, but there's also a bit of sanity as well.
Okay. Okay, I'll stop talking about your love life now. Sorry. So, you started the book on 9/11 when Lucy and Gabe were in a Shakespeare class at Columbia, and you have said that you were in a class that day as well. And then when Lucy decides to work in program development for kids' TV after graduation, you write in the book, "I couldn't help grinning. It was a job I'd been crossing my fingers over for almost 2 months before I got it. The kind of job that I'd started thinking about soon after the towers fell, after I admitted that I wanted to do something more meaningful than advertising, a job that could reach the next generation and had the potential to change the future." So just a little about me. I was actually in a business school class myself that day, and I had worked in advertising and marketing before school. And then I actually lost my best friend and former roommate on 9/11. She worked in the North Tower, and it made me rethink everything as well. And I literally, like, when I read this in your book, I jolted in recognition, because I literally spent the rest of my life saying, well, then I realized, if I'm going to die at my desk working, I don't want to be trying to sell Pepperidge Farm cookies anymore, which used to be fun. But when you have to look at life that way. And anyway, that's when I started writing full time for a while. And anyway, enough about me. But I had that same experience. I'm sure many listeners did as well. And I was wondering, did you have a similar change of heart, or not even change of heart, but just sort of clarification of direction after 9/11, like Lucy, or was everything sort of a clear path for you?
I mean, I think it was for me more of a reaffirmation, because I had always known that I wanted to write, that I wanted to be involved in storytelling. And when I was in college, I had interned at publishing houses. But I think that I sort of had reaffirmed after September 11th that I wanted to go into children's editorial, which is my other job when I'm not writing, and to write books for children as well. And sort of the way Lucy says that she wants to reach the next generation and have the potential to change the future, I kind of was realizing that, there are a lot of things in this world that I'm not particularly good at, but one of the things I'm okay at is storytelling, and that if that's the thing that I can do, if that's, I can use that to help hopefully make the world a little bit better than it was when I left it, or when I leave it than it was when I found it. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, all right, I want to write books for kids. I want to edit books for kids. I want to potentially open their minds to different ideas and different points of view and different things that I think are valuable for young readers to know in this world. I think a lot of my friends had similar kind of reactions that you and I had after September 11th, of saying, like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a journalist, I want to be, a lawyer to help people. I think that, living through the experience of September 11th, especially at 20, 21, however old I was basically a big realization for me and for a lot of my friends that there isn't always tomorrow. So, make today count.
Yeah. And how did you go from focusing so much on children's books and, writing all these amazing series that you've written and editing children's work and young adults? How did you drift into writing this amazing book for adults?
I mean, I didn't intend for this to be a book. I really intended for it just to be, these vignettes that I was writing to sort of help myself through this breakup. And then I showed the first 30 pages to a friend of mine who's a writer, and sort of said, I don't really know what this is, but I've been working on it, kind of thing. And she was like, I think it's a novel for grown-ups. I was like, for grown-ups? What? I don't write for grown-ups. And then I really started trying to finish it and trying to put it together, and with that in mind. And, there were sections where my editor had said to me, you actually can push the scene a little bit further. You don't have to stop at the kiss. You're writing for grown-ups. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah, you had one particularly, I don't know, not X-rated, but definitely R-rated scene in there. With Game and
you kind of see me once, I think.
Yeah. So, you're this great editor as well. What do you think are the 3 most important things you've taken from your editing career that you have to make sure to apply to your own writing?
I think, well, in editing children's books, I always think about the fact that my goal as an editor is to put books out there that will make kids not want to put them down, because I feel like there are always so many things that are competing for kids' attention and for adult attention as well. But I'm usually thinking about kids, and I sort of say, like, I want them to not be able to put this book down, because once they do, they're going to pick up something else and get involved in that, and like they might forget about this book for a while. So I was like thinking about that too when I was writing this book, and I was like, all right, what can I do with the pacing? What can I do with the structure to see if I can kind of make grown-ups not put this book down, because they have a lot of other things competing for their time as well, and I don't want them to forget about this book. So I wrote it with pretty short chapters, which is one of the things that I do in children's books, because, if you can finish a chapter in a couple pages, you're like, I might as well read another one. Why not? They're short. Totally. And also to kind of really cut down the words so that I felt like every word that was in this book was something that needed to be in this book. I didn't want anything extra, so that also there were, hopefully, I tried to at least make sure that there are no points in the book where there's just kind of gratuitous lagging stuff, that everything is there for a reason, which kind of hopefully propels the reader forward. So I was sort of thinking about those kinds of aspects of writing children's books and editing children's books when I was writing this one.
I think the short chapters really make a difference. Just, being a mom and having sort of a shorter attention span, I feel so accomplished when I can finish a chapter. I know it's so silly, but I think you were right on with that one.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you.
So where and when do you write? Can you give me like a visual of sort of what it is? Do you write at your desk in your office? Or are you in a coffee shop? Like, what's your process like?
I basically write anywhere I can set up my laptop and find time. So, I was on a book tour earlier this spring, and I was writing in the airport. I was writing on the airplane. I have resorted, when deadlines are really looming, to writing on the subway.
Wow, that's impressive.
Pull my elbows in really small. Luckily, my laptop's not very big. I write a lot on my couch in my living room. Even though I have a little office in my apartment, I tend to write in the living room, not in the office, which, why do I have an office then? I don't really know. And I also like going on, take a few days off and go out. My mom has a house on the east end of Long Island, so sometimes I'll just go there for a few days, and it's really quiet and write. So yeah, I'm pretty mobile as far as writing is concerned. As long as I've got a laptop and some time, there's a good chance I'll be writing something.
And I saw, speaking of the East End, I'm out here as well. I saw that you were going to be one of the authors at Authors Night on August 11th out in Amagansett.
Yeah,
so
I am. And I'm also, this coming Saturday, going to be at Book Harbor in Sag Harbor at, I think, 6 o'clock. And I'm going to do a Facebook Live there with Kara Price from Bellatrix.
Awesome. So that's July 31st. right? July 21st, you'll be at. Great.
July 21st, yeah.
And then, August 11th on Authors Night. Well, I'll be at Authors Night, too. I'll have a little booth.
Awesome. I'll come say hi.
Yeah, I'm going to do some live podcasts, so we'll see how it goes. And as you were saying about writing on airplanes, I'm trying to write a book myself right now, and for a while I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to write the whole thing on a plane. That's like the only time when nobody bothers me, and I can focus. So anyway.
Yeah, I kind of hate now that Wi-Fi is available on airplanes because
I
it
know.
means I can do other things.
I know.
Like it used to just be I couldn't, so I could write, and I didn't feel bad about missing out on anything.
I try to say that the $20 Wi-Fi fee is going to prohibit me from turning it on. I could do it, but I'm not going to because I don't want to pay the money or something. So
yeah, but then I learned that also you can use miles to turn it on.
Oh.
And I was like, well, miles, that's not even anything. That's not even whatever.
No, I know, not that, I know. I'm any excuse.
Terrible. It's terrible.
I don't need more reasons. Just one more question about the book. At the end of the book, you had a copy of All the Light We Cannot See on Gabe's nightstand. And I thought it was so interesting because I feel like I so rarely see references to other sort of more contemporary books in a book. What made you put that book in there in that scene?
Well, I wanted the book reference to be. I wanted the book reference to say something about Gabe, and also to say something about the story, and also to say something about the time period that he was writing in. And so I wanted a contemporary book because I wanted it to be like he's a guy who reads what's coming out, as well as classics because, from the rest of the book you kind of know that he reads a lot of Shakespeare and poetry. And I had just read All Light We Cannot See, and I thought it was one of the most remarkable books that I had read in a really long time. And I think because it was about war and it was about survival and it was about, the love between people who are not necessarily the sort of typical love story, but like a family relationship, kind of caring about each other. And I just sort of felt like there were a lot of themes that were in that book that I wanted Gabe to have been reading, and that I thought kind of tied into where he was in his life and in the world. And also that he probably would have liked it.
Yep.
So.
And I liked how you also included a playlist of songs to listen to when reading the book or discussing it at the end of the book, including Bruce Springsteen's "The Rising" and "Homeward Bound" by Simon and Garfunkel. I don't know why everybody doesn't do that. That's such a good idea. What made you include a playlist, and how did you pick those songs?
A lot of those songs were songs that I was listening to while I was writing the book. Or songs that I found inspirational at various moments when I was writing the book. But I don't even know where I think there was someone who had asked me when the hardcover came out to put together a Spotify playlist for the book. And I thought it was such a cool idea. And I think it's on Spotify somewhere. And I liked the idea of trying to tell the narrative of the story through song, and also through songs that I had been listening to in the years that I was writing this book. So I kind of put it together, and I hope that the song lyrics and the song topics and emotions kind of follow the story a bit. But I like doing it so much that I actually have already started one for my next book so that it'll be ready.
Oh, that's great. And tell me, I already pre-ordered your next book on Amazon, but before...
Oh, thank you. That's nice of you.
No problem. Before it arrives, can you tell me a little more about what that's about? I read about it online, but for the listeners here...
Sure. So it's called More Than Words, and it's coming out February 5th, 2019. And it's about a woman whose father passes away, and then after she dies, she finds out all of these secrets that he'd been keeping from her while he was alive. And those secrets kind of change her perception of her childhood and of her relationship with him and of her thoughts about his relationship with her mother. And then it also changes how she sees herself fitting into the world and the kind of choices she makes as far as romantic relationships in her life go as well.
Excellent. Can't wait for that.
And there are actually two very small peripheral characters in More Than Words who are characters from The Light We Lost, because I decided I wanted all of my adult books to be in the same world of New York City.
Oh, I love that.
So, yeah.
I was going to say
little crossover characters.
I was going to say earlier, like, is there any way we could follow Lucy, after? And then I was thinking, I can't ask her. I mean, what's she going to do in a sequel? How could she possibly do a sequel to this book? It's like amazing, but I'm so glad because I feel like such a connection to your characters. I'm eager to see what where life goes for them.
Where life goes with them. I've always said that if I did a sequel to The Light We Lost, it would be from Darren's perspective.
Interesting.
I feel like he's got a lot coming at him.
Yeah. Darren's like a total trooper. He's like, he has to put up with a lot. I know, poor guy. So are you a fan of photography? Photography plays a huge role in The Light We Lost, especially with Gabe and the show and everything. Are you a personal fan, or did you think that was just a good literary device?
No, I love beautiful photography, and I'm not a very good photographer, so I especially admire people who are able to really capture emotion with their photographs. Mm-hmm. I took a photography class in high school, and I had the best time, but even looking back, I was like, I didn't learn anything, did I? Not the teacher's fault. The teacher was great. I don't know. I don't have an eye for it, and I wish I did. But I do have framed photographs up in my apartment and stuff. I think it's I think there's something about the fact that it is capturing a moment in time in a real person's life, especially when there's a photograph with a person in it. Mm-hmm. I think there's something really, really remarkable about that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can tell a story with just one image.
Yeah. It's like, let's just forget writing books. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. So what is on your wish list going forward professionally? You have another book coming out. You're still obviously an editor, and have more and more, great children's books coming out, like Chelsea Clinton's book. And what's your, what's left for you? What do you want to do next?
Oh man. I mean, I would love to just keep being able to do what I'm doing. I've loved writing books for kids. I've loved visiting schools and being the, visiting author, even though sometimes they think my name is Arthur, which is the cutest thing that ever happens. And sort of, helping kids find their voices and their stories and encouraging them to share what they want to with the world. And I love working with authors and helping them, realize their vision for their stories and championing them and getting them out into the world. And I love writing books for adults. I love being able to explore sort of the parts of life that happen after you're 10 or 18 or whatever, where you get to think about careers and families and love and parents and as they get older and sort of your place in the world. And I've loved, especially with The Light We Lost, being able to connect with readers who want to tell me their stories about their first loves or, ways that they connected to the characters in The Light We Lost. So I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And my wish list is I hope people like More Than Words.
I'm sure they will. I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that they wouldn't. But do you have any advice to aspiring writers?
I do, and this might sound like very silly advice, but make time to write. That, to me, I think is when I decided that I was going to take my own writing seriously, was when I said, okay, I'm going to schedule writing into my week, into my day, into my weekend. And I'm going to write from this time to this time, and that's in my calendar now. And when somebody calls and says, hey, can you have brunch on Sunday? I say, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm busy. And, to make writing a priority and not sort of fit it in around the rest of your life, which is what I've been doing for a while. And I think that scheduling it and making it a thing that you do, that you're responsible to yourself for, kind of, at least it made me think about writing in a different way and prioritizing it in a different way.
That's great. And just my last question, do you believe there's one true love for each person?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think that a lot of us could probably be happy with a lot of different people. I think there are things about Gabe that made Lucy happy. There are things about Darren that made Lucy happy. And there are probably things about other people, like the scientist she met for 5.5 minutes in the book, that might have made Lucy happy too. And I think it just would have been a different life for her. And I think it really was about her making choices about what was the most important for her at that moment in time. So I think, I don't know, maybe for us too, that there are a lot of people that you can find happiness, and some people you probably connect with more deeply than others. I mean, I know that's been the case for me. But I think the idea of saying that there's one soulmate is almost sad to me, because what if that soulmate lives somewhere else and you never meet them and you spend your whole life not with your soulmate?
Yeah.
Like that just makes it feel so sad to me. So,
I know.
So I feel like there have to be lots of people we can be happy with, so that we don't risk that situation where our soulmate lives somewhere we never meet them.
Okay. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. I like that answer. That was good. Well, Jill, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it, and thanks for writing such an amazing story that really transported me, and obviously so many others around the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I'll see you in August.
I'll see you in August. Okay, take care.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Today's episode has been sponsored by Once Upon a Farm Organics. OnceUponAFarmOrganics.com. Thanks so much.